Let's say together. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. As you go, proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Great. Miriam, would you like to come up? Well done. Would you like to just introduce yourself very briefly, who you are?
Okay, I'm Miriam. I'm married to Dave. We've got 3 children. We've been part of this church for quite a long time. And I'll tell you more about our context in my little talk.
Yeah, and Miriam's also one of our trustees. So
I hadn't forgotten that. Okay, I don't know about you, but when I switch on the TV or open a newspaper or go on social media or think about the stories that lie behind the news, it strikes me just how desperately our world needs light. If the light that Jesus is talking about is truth, integrity, honesty, compassion, love, the right direction, then as a society, we're in big trouble, aren't we? I mean, some of the things about our culture really sadden me, really anger me. So we are absolutely preoccupied with equality. Yet for so many people in our country and in our city, life is so unfair. You know, we legislate against every kind of bullying and harassment, which is great. But 10 minutes on Twitter will reveal the most disgusting abuse against people that's stirring up, a wave of mental health problems in our young people. We idolise choice in everything. But if you happen to be born in a particular postcode, the chances are you're going to have very few choices in life. And if we all look at our local contexts, our communities and our neighbourhoods, we can all point out places where there's a lot of darkness and we desperately need Jesus' light. So many areas of our culture are dominated by lies and darkness and confusion. We're desperate for the light of Jesus. But this is nothing new, because Jesus was born into a nation that was oppressed by the all-conquering Romans, where the ruler thought nothing of murdering little boys to prevent a rival, and where women were second-class citizens, where slavery was normal, and the spiritual leaders were hypocrites, and they tried to exploit the poor. And yet, Jesus was born into that place. He lived an ordinary life in an ordinary town. And then he stepped into his ministry. He healed the sick. He shone light into the darkness. He cast out demons, and he declared, the kingdom of God is at hand. The rule of God, the kingdom of the heavens, where there's provision, healing, joy, fairness, where there's restoration in relationships, right relationships. The kingdom of heavens is here, available to all of us to step into simply through faith in him. And having displayed his amazing power and issued the greatest invitation we've ever seen to mankind, he says to his followers, you are the light of the world. And in the Message translation, it says this: you're here to be a light, bringing out the God colours in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. We are the light. We carry the truth, the power, the light that can push back the darkness and bring in the kingdom of God. To be exposed, to be a city on a hill, to provide direction, that's our destiny and our identity as Jesus' followers. And he commands and empowers us to be the light. Sounds great, doesn't it? Let's go and do it. But how? What does Jesus mean? How practically do we shine a light? What does it mean to be a city on a hill? What are these good deeds that we can do to bring glory to our Father in heaven? Well, my guess is that there are as many ways of shining a light as there are followers of Jesus. And I can only share with you the things that we've tried to do in our community to try and shine a light. So we live in a village called Outybridge, which is about 4 miles that way. It's a proper Yorkshire village. And we moved there about 8 years ago when our eldest son, Josh, was about a year old. And for the first couple of years, we didn't know anybody at all in the community, nobody. And we just maintained our relationships over this side of the city. But when Josh started school, it kind of sunk in that this was our mission field. This was where God was sending us. This is where we were called. And so we set to work trying to ask God how it was that he wanted us to make disciples and how we could shine our light. And 5 years on, we're at the point where we are known in the village and in the wider area. We have some positions of influence that we've been able to use to bring change. We have a growing number of discipling relationships, and we're gathering a fledgling missional community. So I just want to share with you practically the small things we've done over the last 5 years to try and shine a light and be obedient to this call on our lives. So the first thing we've done is to look for the needs in our community and serve them. So I started by joining the PTA, which is the group of parents who raise money for the school to support it. Volunteering for the PTA involves things like organising school discos, dancing at school discos, printing raffle tickets, photocopying, stuffing envelopes, photocopying, all the glamorous jobs, really. There was a need for people to paint faces at the village gala. Now, I am shocking at face painting, but I did it anyway. There's always a need for community and relationships. So I got permission from the school to put flyers in the book bags of all the children in Josh's year group. And I invited all the mums in the year group on a night out at the local pub. And these have been fantastic. We do it regularly now. We get about 20 to 25 mums along each time, get a night at the pub. Other year groups have followed suit. And it's been brilliant for building relationship, but also for increasing, my network, my contacts, for finding people of peace. There was a need for a parent governor at the school soon after Josh started. So Dave stood for that and was elected. The local church wanted somebody to play the piano for them every so often at their services. So I volunteered for that. 1 week, the school computers were hacked and all their resources were stolen. Staff had a terrible time. So I baked a load of chocolate brownies and took them to school. Really small things, but we just tried to look for where are the needs and then try to be generous with our time and serve them. The second thing we've done is to seek positions of influence. So I mentioned that I volunteered with the PTA. Well, soon after I started that, the position of chair became vacant. So I went for it with a friend. We became the joint chairs. And it's been a brilliant opportunity to serve at a higher level, to have greater insight into the needs of the school. We've been able to influence the culture, change it from something that's quite cliquey into something inclusive. And it's been a much greater platform for doing good things. So, for example, when the humanitarian crisis in Syria hit the news a few years ago, I was able to use the PTA to start a collection around the whole of the school community. And within a week, we sent off a big cheque to save the children. I didn't do very much, but having that position of influence meant that I could be quite effective. And being on the PTA led to me being invited to join the parish council. So I have been Councillor Cates for the last 3 years. And it all sounds very Vicar of Dibley, and to be honest, at times it is. But being a parish councillor has been a great platform, again, for influencing, for doing good work, for shining a light. So my role as a parish councillor really is to find out what people's problems are, both individual and in the community, and take a lead in trying to fix them, which is great. So an example of this was last year when a lady emailed me in great distress. The roof of her council house was leaking. The contractors had told her time and again they'd come and fix it. She'd taken time off work, which she could hardly afford to do. And then they'd failed to turn up, and the whole thing had started again. Her elderly mother was suffering health problems as a result, and she was despairing. Now, obviously, I could not go round and fix her roof, but as a parish councillor, I'd been able to build a relationship with the ward councillor, the city councillor. And so I was able to phone him, and he did have authority over the contractors. And by the end of the day, her roof had been fixed. Again, all I did was make a couple of phone calls, but having a position of influence meant that I could be quite effective. School governance is a fantastic place to serve and have influence. Dave had been a parent governor for about a year. He was ready to quit because he thought there was not a lot of point. He wasn't having a lot of influence. And then one night he had a dream that the chair of governors suddenly stepped down. And by lunchtime the next day, he had an email from the chair of governors announcing that, out of the blue, he'd had to resign. So Dave took that dream as a sign from God that he should go for the chair. He was uncontested. He's been the chair of governors now for 3 years. It's just incredible, the influence and the good work he's been able to do, the change he's been able to bring, not just in our community, but now a wider platform across the city. And if you want to know more about that, ask him, because there's some fantastic stories. I mentioned that I served the local church. Well, those relationships led to me being asked to help lead and teach the Bible to a group of children in a new youth club that we're doing. So a fantastic opportunity. And then they asked me to open their summer fair last year, which is a bit like a village fete. It all sounds very provincial, doesn't it? But I was able, in my little speech, to talk about the kingdom of God. Fantastic opportunity. But it came from 5 years of building relationships. Seeking positions of influence is about being a city on a hill. It's about being seen from a long way off and providing direction. So we've tried to serve the needs that we can find, seek positions of influence, and finally, we've tried to speak the truth. So we all find ourselves in situations where lies are being spoken, or where there's negativity, or people are tempted to gossip or to be dishonest. You know, it could be in the school, workplace, whatever network you're part of. Those situations happen. We have in us a light that can bring truth to those situations, light to everyone in the room. It's a really hard thing to do, to stand up and challenge that darkness, isn't it? It's not very British. And also, we feel that we might be persecuted, people might hate us, or laugh at us. But over the last year, I've tried intentionally in the committees and groups that I'm part of to call out negativity and prejudice. And I won't tell you that everyone still likes me, because they don't. But my experience is that most people recognise the truth. It does light up the room. And it gives most people courage to join in and to stand behind the truth and make the right decisions. And there's all sorts of other ways we can bring truth in relationships and things like that. So we've tried to serve needs, seek positions of influence, and speak the truth. We've made loads of mistakes along the way. There have been loads of missed opportunities, loads of wrong motives, but we've just tried to be consistently generous with our time and to shine a light. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, that sounds lovely. Uterbridge has got less dog poo than before and safer parking, but where are the healings? Where are the miracles? Where are the hundreds of people turning to Jesus? Or you might be thinking, sounds nice, but how do these things bring glory to our Father in heaven? Well, I'm desperate for those healings and the miracles, for the hundreds of lives transformed. You know, we've seen a couple of healings. We're starting to see people's lives transformed. But no amount of community action compares to the hope of revival in our communities. But we're in this for the long haul. And Jesus' first miracle was to turn water into wine at a wedding when the booze had run out. And nothing in the Gospel of John, where it's written about, does it say that Jesus then stood up and said, I've done this because I am the Son of God and I've done it to bring glory to my Father. He doesn't explicitly incite praise for his Father. But he uses his power because he loves somebody enough to show his power in a way that saves someone from social embarrassment. And that's how he started his ministry. And in the same way, when we do good deeds, when we consistently shine a light, we might not be wearing a badge saying, my Father told me to do this, but for the people who are walking alongside us, for those whom God's calling us into relationship with, they will start to ask questions. They will see that we're not doing it out of selfish ambition. And practical acts will lead to spiritual opportunities. So I just want to encourage you to ask God, are there any needs that you can serve in your community? Are there any positions of influence that you can seek? However small they might seem or unstrategic, are there any positions of influence you could seek? And is there truth that you need to speak into a particular situation? And what are the things that prevent us from doing this? Do we really believe that there is the light of Jesus inside us that can transform the world around us? Do we need to spend less time watching TV and more time serving? Do we need to widen our network of friends and acquaintances outside the church? Do we get discouraged when we don't see fruit straight away? Are we willing to commit to a community for years? Now, at the end of the day, Jesus says we are the light. It's more about who we are than what we do. But as we are transformed by Jesus' power, as we become more and more passionate about seeing the kingdom of God bringing light into our world, the light inside us will transform those around us. It will change our communities and our city, and it will change the world.